Welcome back to the EduHERO Podcast. I'm Kirk Koennecke, the CEO and Superintendent of Indian Hill, and boy, what a treat this morning. I have with me Connor Wilkes, Brady Evans, co-captains of our boys soccer team on the Hill, and Coach Bryan Daniel here this morning. Hi, fellas.
How's it going?
Hey there. How's it going? Thanks for having us.
Thanks for being here this morning. So everybody's recovering from a very exciting night last evening up in Fairborn, a special result. Brady, tell everybody who's listening that wasn't there what happened.
It was a great game. I'm sad if you missed it, but we went up 3 goals probably the first 15 minutes. Aiden had 2 of those. You had 1. And then we kind of slipped a little, maybe some calls that didn't go our way, but we gave them 2 goals back. Going to the second half, it was 3-2, and then got the 4th, and the rest is history.
Put it away. And Connor, where are you headed?
We're headed to the state final up in Columbus on Sunday at 1 p.m. at the historic Crew Stadium.
And you get to play on a pretty important pitch that has helped with the development of soccer across the state of Ohio now for years, right? Probably since you were a little boy, you remember games that were happening there on TV and maybe got to visit or travel. But what's it mean for this program, Coach Daniel, to be in a state final?
I think the thing that stands out to me is just the tradition and the history. We haven't been to a state final since 1987, and our program's only made it to the state final twice, and that was actually back-to-back seasons, 86 and 87. So you're talking almost 40 years of time between those. But I was talking last night with our girls JV coach, Matt Heineman, and he was actually a member of that team in 87 that made it to the final. And as you mentioned, Crew Stadium, it was the first soccer-specific stadium in the country. And so to play on a field that carries that much historical weight in the game of soccer is something special. But I think for our program, one of the things that we've talked about through the last 4 or 5 years is just raising the bar, raising the standard year after year. And to see this year's team build on what we did last year and the year before, and this group of seniors continue to lead and take us one step higher and play for each other. I'm just so proud for these guys to have the opportunity to experience something that they're going to cherish and remember for the rest of their lives.
Brady, when you hear that, right, and again, I get goosebumps hearing your coach talk about the history at Indian Hill and then making history. Do you think the guys on the team are aware of that?
Yeah, I think definitely. We fell short the past couple of years. I think for me and Connor, it's just extra special. We've been in this program on this team for 4 years, and I don't know, it's just something you can only really dream of, and the team's just really excited. We had a video made for us of past alums the other night, just wishing us good luck. And I don't know, for the whole community to be behind us, it's just something that's really special.
Yeah, really special. I heard about the kind of montage of former players and people giving you guys shout-outs. Like, Connor, I mean, I know in the moment when you're playing, right, and when you're getting ready for the next game, maybe that's not always present of mind. But now as you sit here and you're reflecting on the season and then what's to come Sunday, you hear your coach talk about this hasn't happened since the 80s. I mean, how important is that for school spirit and school culture from a student perspective?
Yeah, it's incredible. We had almost 50 students there last night just supporting us and being engaged in the school. For us, we kind of just treat it like every other normal game. We treat every game like it's a state final, 100% effort. And so for us, not much has really changed. But for the school perspective, it's really special to see everyone kind of get behind us and support us. And it's just something that we talk about in the hallways. And it's something we haven't had the past few years, and it's just really special.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always amazed, right, at what happens when people start to pay attention to these really high-quality teams. And we've had some success at Indian Hill in athletics over the years, but when we talk about the soccer programs and the history, like you said, Coach Daniel, you're working about a standard, right? You're trying to have this culture be really strong, and Connor just said they're approaching every game like it's the state final. From your perspective as a coach, what are the 2 or 3 things that you do to try to build that culture with these guys over time? Because you're spending years with them.
Yeah, I think it starts with building a staff of coaches that are some of the best coaches in this part of the state. I think I tell people all the time, we have the most overqualified staff on our sideline of any high school program in the state of Ohio. And I think it starts there because that gives us a collection of voices, a collection of experiences that are pouring into these guys, and not just soccer knowledge, but belief in that culture and a pursuit of building these guys up as young men and preparing them through the adversity that we see on the field to go out and be rock stars no matter what field they go into, no matter what they do beyond soccer. I think beyond the staff, I think a lot of it has to do with helping cultivate leadership with these guys. And I think the two guys sitting at this table right now are among the best leaders that I've ever had the privilege of coaching, and watching them grow into their leadership roles through the previous couple seasons and into this year has been one of the most rewarding aspects of this season for me. And watching the way that the other seniors rally behind these guys and follow their lead. And Connor's not lying when he says they compete in every game like it's a state final. There is an edge, there is a focus, and the benefit for that is when you start to see the impact that has on the younger players. We have guys on our team this year that are starting and playing 75, 80 minutes a game that didn't see the field much at all last year, even as juniors.
Yeah.
And that takes a serious level of buy-in to the culture and understanding that when I have my opportunity, I'm going to be ready. And we've also held a philosophy of pushing younger players to perform even at the varsity level when they're ready. If you're good enough, you're old enough, and as long as we can put you out there and you can compete, we're gonna give you that opportunity.
You hear that phrase buy-in a lot, Connor. Obviously, something's working for you. Prolific goal scorer. You've had a lot of accolades throughout your career, but as I was joking with you outside of the podcast, right, there are alum who graduated on those teams in the 80s who were like, oh, he's breaking my record, but when it comes to leadership, how are you trying to communicate as a leader? Can you talk about that for a minute? Because your coach just referenced you two as leaders, and we're talking a lot about that as a district and what leadership skills are about and what it means. How do you put that into practice in your role as one of the captains of a soccer team?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Brady and I both know our role in the field. We know we have to come out and perform, but really the biggest part of our role as leaders on this team is kind of getting everyone else on the team focused, knowing their role, and ready to play. And a lot of that starts in training, in lifting, and film, kind of preparing for the game when it's hard to take things seriously or it's hard to put 100% effort into practice every day. Our role is to be there to push everyone, to make sure everyone's ready to play.
What are some things that you do when you talk about pushing everybody, making sure they're ready? What are some of the actions or things you actually do throughout the season?
I think a lot of it is about responsibility. It's about holding people accountable. So if that means someone slacking off in practice, calling them out in a nice and friendly way, but calling them out to make sure that they know they have to be better for the team.
Okay. And Brady, when you hear that too, and you think about leadership, how are you influencing those around you?
I think I like to take more of the fun approach to it. I think the team meals and before on the bus, like the music, I try and make it as fun as possible. I've been in the shoes of the younger guys before who have maybe not seen the field as much or are trying to work their way up. So I understand and I have a perspective into that, but I just try to make it as fun as possible for those guys.
So the atmosphere matters, the accountability matters, you're trying to set some expectations, and as Coach said, now here you are on the precipice of doing something historic once again for a program that has a lot of rich history. Both our boys and girls soccer programs have always been known as strong programs, but few and far between when it comes to actually winning championships at any school. That's just a hard thing to do. So you guys played through some hard adversity last night, but also throughout the last couple of seasons at times, right? I'm sure there are games that are stick in your mind or moments that stick in your mind. And while we don't really want to look back because we're anticipating the future here, what's that mean, play through adversity, to you, Connor?
Yeah, I think Brady and I have both been on the varsity team since our freshman year, and we've experienced what it's been like to lose games in the postseason where we wish we could have done more. We wish we had performed better on the game day. And I think that's kind of helped us as leaders kind of shape our approach this season, especially going into the tournament.
Adversity, how do you define that, and what does it mean? How do you know you played through it?
I think when the game gets the most challenging and you feel like you're up against a wall and you're trying to break through that wall mentally, physically, I think we saw that a lot last night when we gave up the 2 goals. I just think we rallied together. We do our best to get the group back together, whether it's pep talks, talking to the coaches. You know, it's just something really important, and I think this year we faced adversity very well.
Talk about your coach for a minute, or coaching staff for a minute. So Connor, I'll throw it back to you. What's something you've learned about leadership and watching these coaches and interacting with them with your time in the program?
Yeah, I think for me it's mostly been 2 things. Number 1, the commitment of all of the coaching staff. Like he said before the podcast started, after our game last night, instead of going out and celebrating, our coaches got together, watched film for our next game in the state championship on Sunday, and that's special. Helping us prepare for the game. That doesn't happen everywhere, and that's really important for us. And I would also say just them pushing us every day in practice. Like Coach Daniel said before, we have an incredible staff, and the different perspectives they bring make us better as a team.
Love hearing that. Of course, pushing you're right, to hopefully realize all of your talent over time is really important. Brady, what's your takeaway? Is there something that sticks out about your experience with these coaches over time?
I just think, for me especially, I have a personal relationship with every coach, and I think most kids would say that. Whether you've been on the JV program, you're obviously going to have that connection to Fry as you move in to the varsity program. I've been lucky enough to have him all 4 years, but Fry's still there. He's talking to me every day. You know, we talk about anything, football, just random things that you're able to form a personal connection. You know, Tony, he's there a couple times a week. He's funny, he's British, so we can always make fun of him for that, but it's just the little things, I think. And for me personally, like, I wouldn't want any other group of coaches.
Oh, that's great to hear. I'm sure that makes Coach Daniel feel good hearing that. And you both know that Coach Daniel can be pretty intense and serious, but he's also a huge fan of the game, right? So, Bryan, while you're here today, like, maybe give us a little insight, maybe something the guys don't know about just how big a fan you are of the game. I mean, you're intense about soccer.
Yeah. Oh man, I don't know. That's a tough question. So we have season tickets to FC Cincinnati, and we're constantly there. But in terms of like little nuggets, you know, there's a lot of talk. We're constantly, everybody has their team that they follow in the Premier League. Usually there's a lot of banter back and forth about, oh, your team lost and my team won. And unfortunately, most of the staff are Chelsea fans, which is brutal. I'm actually a Manchester United fan, which has become increasingly difficult in recent years. But it kind of goes back to, there's this guy named Eric Cantona who played for Manchester United. And I can trace back, like, when I began following them, I think I was probably about 10 years old. I learned how to operate a VCR so that I could record games, because they were only on at like 2 a.m. And I would record games, and it was either Manchester United or Arsenal. Those are the only 2 teams that were ever really broadcast. And there was this one game where this guy gets a ball from like 35 yards out, and he hits it purely, and it just, I mean, before it even went in the goal, he turned his back to the goal, and he popped his collar and stood there with his arms crossed. And I remember just thinking, there's this mystique, right? There was something about that moment, and I think that was a moment where I became all in. Like, baseball, okay, fine. Like, I played other sports, but from that moment on, soccer was it for me. And it's cool to see now, gosh, 30-something years later, and to get to pass on some of that passion to these guys.
Yeah, that passion shows, I think. I think the guys have spoken to that a little bit, and I think we see that with your staff. But I appreciate you sharing a little bit of that, right? And you guys have had a lot of opportunities at Indian Hill, and I think the exposure, right, with soccer and how it's changed over time, just not in America, right, but Ohio, especially with the pro teams now, you got to grow up with that, right? We came from another era, but you kind of grew up in that. But how do you continue to learn to become a better player? Like, what are the things you do? Because I don't know if everybody knows what it takes to be on a championship team, and you're right here on the edge, right? Very few people ever make the Final Four. But what are you doing to learn to be a better student athlete? Connor, what do you think?
Yeah, I think obviously there's the soccer aspect of it. There's technical ability, there's tactical knowledge, and a lot of that comes just from time on the field. Whether that's outside of practice, just putting in the work on your own, at the field, at your house, whatever it is. But then from a team perspective, I think the biggest thing we do together as a team is the film. And whether that's telling people, like recognizing moments, situational awareness, I think that's been one of the most important things that I've learned specifically from my high school experience.
Were you the kid that went home after a game on the weekend or after practice and like kicked into the net at home and did some extra?
Yeah, always.
Yeah, I think so.
In the summertime, every day of the summer, I'd always be up at the field, practicing shooting, passing, little dribbling activities, everything. I just love soccer, and so to me it just comes naturally. Just always want to be out there. Spending
your time on something that's a priority, though, matters, and not everybody does that to the degree that you have. Brady, when you think about that question, I'll throw it to you, like, what do you do to get better?
I mean, you can say you work hard, but if you're just going to practice, you're just going to lifting, you're not doing anything extra. I mean, our guys, like, I'll drive by the field a couple times. I mean, I drive by the field every day, but there's always someone there. Like, especially since the tournament started, people are practicing their penalties. You know, PK shootouts are massive, but I mean, there's just always people there. People go in groups, people go alone, people watch soccer together on the weekends. I mean, this team is just all in, and that's something I love about it.
Love hearing you use words, right, like tactical and situational, and then I see that soccer IQ, right? And so where is this team, Coach Daniel, compared to the teams you've had in the past? And I know you've had some great players and teams, but when you think about that soccer IQ and what your staff tries to do, like, where are they?
Definitely up there with the best. I think this year's team has a really unique combination of that tactical acumen along with technical ability that at every position. And then there's a component of grit this year. You're going to have to win some games in some ugly moments, and that's been something that's been really special. But from a tactical standpoint, from a knowledge standpoint, from a passion for the game standpoint, I think that what this team brings to the field every single training session and every single game is unmatched by any team that I've had the honor of coaching.
Well, that's wonderful to hear, and again, I hope that makes you guys and the rest of your teammates feel good when you know that your coaches recognize that the hard work and time pays off. We see the talent and how it plays out. I'm sure there's some jokes inside with the team, right? And you guys have your own language that you kind of develop. But can you give us a little peek behind the veil of that that's appropriate with the audience of, you know, Connor's out here scoring 1 million goals, and what's the joke? I mean, or who is it that's not getting enough touches, or what's going on with that guy in his head? You know, I mean, tell us something that gives us a little inside knowledge of this special team.
I think some of our favorite moments are watching him celebrate. I think we always get nervous watching him pump his fists in the air. We're like, Coach, we don't want to have a shoulder thrown out, or we got to calm down a little bit. But I think that's a big one, and obviously just seeing him so passionate about it is something that you can feel throughout the team.
So concern for the health of the adults around you.
A little bit of concern, I'd say, yeah, but it's awesome to watch. I love it.
That's great. Connor, what comes to your mind?
Yeah, I think mainly to me it's like the friendly combination or friendly competition between attackers and defenders. In practice, whether it's offense versus defense, we always just have a little competition going. Who can score the most? Who can keep clean sheets? And that kind of translates onto the field with our competitive nature in practice.
Tell me, as we're kind of moving into the last part of the podcast here, Connor, tell me what you appreciate about Brady as a player.
You know, Brady does one of the hardest roles in soccer. Playing as a defensive midfielder, he doesn't get the recognition that I do of just scoring goals, getting assists. I get all the headlines, and Brady's in the back doing the dirty work. And I think that's one of the biggest things that he's had, where he's been humble about it, and it's critical to our team.
Pretty cool compliment, I think. And defense wins championships, right?
That's what I like to say.
That's right. And offense matters.
Mm-hmm.
So you've been able to watch this like prolific goal scorer in front of you. Maybe, I don't know if you knew it the whole time, right? But now when you think about it, like, what's special about him?
I mean, he's magic on the ball. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's up against him, left foot, right foot. He can score goals from pretty much anywhere on the field. He can create something out of nothing, and we've seen that like throughout my 4 years here. I've just seen him develop, and it's been really special to watch. And I look forward to watching him in college. And I don't know, he's just a great player.
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear too. And I think when you get to be a part of that and feel some camaraderie and see the talent, right? You can kind of have that recipe for success. So, Coach Daniel, one other important question I think for you, you're talking all the time, and whenever I get to interact with you, I'm hearing you talk about your team only. I rarely hear you talk about the other team, but we know you're all doing your homework, right? But again, how do you get that message across to these guys and to your squad that it's really about what we control? How does that play out in terms of coaching? Because does it really matter who you're playing Sunday?
I think it's a great question. So a lot of that has to do with copious amounts of study, right? So we know our opponent, and the boys are prepared, and they know what to expect. But then beyond that, I think a belief and a trust in the process that we use. And these guys have truly bought into, this is who we are, this is our philosophy, this is what we do. And then within that, we have to have the adaptability to react and respond to different scenarios. I think that our schedule helps with that. We play a really, really tough schedule, and it gives us lots of opportunities to see different kinds of teams that are all high level, to give us lots of opportunities to react to different types of adversity. And so I think it comes from a combination of preparation and total commitment to the process that we believe in and that has shown results.
Love that answer. Love hearing about the idea of tough, complex schedule, learning how to play through adversity that you guys have talked about today, and also having some fun along the way. So when you're not doing soccer at the highest level in the state of Ohio and playing on all these nationally competitive travel teams and getting ready for college, and the game's over and it's time for the go-to meal or snack, Brady, what's your number one?
We've hit Skyline a lot this year, so I gotta go Skyline.
Skyline's fueling this?
Probably not. It's probably doing the opposite, but
it's worth it.
It's pretty fun.
And you deserve it, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
What's your number one, Connor? What's the go-to?
Yeah, I think especially the tournament season, we've had a good tradition of pregame pasta meals. And quite the opposite of Skyline. I think it is helping us get ready for the games. Some carb loading the night before, but
sure.
Just the team meals and just being with the guys before the team. I think it's one of the special parts about this group is that even if it's not team meals, we're always spending time together. And that's helped with some of the grit and the readiness to play together.
Cool. Coach Daniel, what's the go-to? What's the snack or the meal for you?
I got to give a shout out to our local spot here. We go to Hop and Vines as a staff, and usually we got 3 or 4 pizzas. Like, they know we're coming, and they have pizzas ready for us, and they've been a great local spot that we go there almost. It's like a tradition for our staff. We go there after most of our games. So
that's great. Well, hopefully we know where to see people on Sunday night. I want to congratulate you. I want to thank you for your time today on the EduHERO Podcast. While we didn't spend a lot of time on academics, there's just sometimes where that doesn't matter quite as much, right? And this weekend, what matters on the Hill is our boys' soccer program. So good luck, best wishes. Hopefully you don't need the luck. Hopefully you're prepared for the adversity you're going to face, and go get it, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, we'll look forward to hearing more about this later. Thanks for joining us on the podcast today.